Hello and welcome everyone for joining us for our webinar today. My name is Dr. Julie Sauvé and I'm a professional learning specialist with Harmony, and I'll be your moderator for today's webinar. The title of our webinar is The Synergy of AI and the Human Connection. It is brought to you today by Harmony Academy and National University. We host these webinars monthly to bring together thought leaders and educators to share best teaching practices and tools to support social and emotional learning. These presentations are the opinions and contents of our guest speakers and may not necessarily be a direct representation of Harmony. All registrants will receive a copy of the recording to watch and share with your colleagues, so be on the lookout for that in your email. In today's webinar, we're going to explore how AI can support and enrich education while staying true to human-centered values. We'll also learn how technology can amplify teaching and preserve the vital connections that make education meaningful. We'll discover how to integrate AI in a way that harmonizes innovation with personalized human-centered teaching. And finally, we'll hear about new Harmony products in education that continue to keep the importance of building healthy relationships as the focus of our work. So we are going to kick off our webinar shortly, hearing from our panelists. We're going to drop in the chat here for you a video that you can watch on your own, because whether we like it or not, AI is here and it is ready for all of us. And so it's important that we continue to learn about it. And we're excited to be here to learn with our panelists today. So before we get started, we do have a quick poll for all of our participants, and we invite you to participate. In a moment, my colleague Amanda is going to put the poll out for you. And thank you, Amanda, for working on the back end of today's webinar. So you'll see right here that there's a brief poll, and it's going to ask you, what do you think about when you hear AI and K-12 education? 1, I can't wait to learn more about the best tools to support students' success. 2, it sounds interesting, but I'm not sure there are tools that I will be using. 3, I'm a bit apprehensive about the potential challenges and the lack of human connection. Or 4, yikes, the robots are coming to take over our schools. So we'll just take a few more minutes. All right, I'm going to go ahead and share results. So it looks like we have a lot of people today with us that are very excited to learn more about AI and the tools that we can use within education to support it. And we also have quite a few people feeling apprehensive about the potential challenges. And wherever you may be coming from today in terms of how you're feeling about it, we're excited that you're with us. And I think we all have a mix of all of these feelings. So thank you for sharing. And we're looking forward to learning more from our panelists. So we have a great panel lined up for you today, and they're going to help ease our fears and any tension that we may be feeling, and also share some incredible opportunities about AI and education and ways that we can keep it all connected to our human connection. So we have with us Rachel Arnold, who is the Department Chair for Global Innovation, Social Emotional Learning with the Sanford College of Education at National University. Early career highlights include working as an editor for Nickelodeon Animation Studios in the late 90s on shows like SpongeBob SquarePants, and his current research interests focus on humane emerging technologies. Scott Moss has worked in K-12 education for 30 years and in higher education for 25 years. He has taught at the elementary, middle, and high school levels. Scott is the academic program director of National University's Masters of Science in Learning Experience Design and Educational Technology program. Mark Otis brings experience from traditional higher education and the private sector, focusing on directing large and small technology projects. Mark is adept at harnessing AI to improve program development, performance, and support. And after graduating from National University with her master's degree in instructional design, Rachel Arnold took on the role of fifth grade teacher at Revo Academy in Southern California. She's honored to be on this webinar today with her father, Dr. Arnold. So before we get started with our specific questions for our panelists, I'd actually like to turn the time over to each of you so we could share, if you could tell us a little bit more about your work and why you're here with us today. So I'll turn the time over to you.
I'll go ahead and dive in. Again, Brian Arnold. So I've always been fascinated by emerging technologies ever since I've been involved with design in the background and gaming and all that kind of stuff. And this is sort of the new biggest emerging technology to really impact our lives in a fundamental way. What I've been doing lately is I've been serving as our National University's chair for our AI Council, and just being involved in raising awareness and helping to inform the Academy so that they can have a digital literacy with which to approach all of this rapidly changing landscape. Scott?
Thank you, Dr. Arnold.
Thank you. I've been interested in AI for a while now, and I started doing presentations and training teachers around 2018. So before AI was really the buzz that it is now. So I've been training teachers, and it's been a focus of mine. Things such as AI policy, ethics, and how to use the tool effectively and efficiently. For my doctoral work, I did it was a case study of third and fourth graders learning about AI bias. So it's something I've been interested in for a while.
Thank you, Scott.
Right.
Hi, everyone. Mark Otis, a graduate of the education program here, education technology. My background's goes pretty far back. My first foray into educational technology involved CD-ROMs, if some of you even know what that is. But I will say that of all the changes I've seen over the decades, this is the most profound and honestly the most exciting opportunity we've had in education in a very long time. And hopefully I can bring some of that perspective to our discussion today.
Thank you, Mark. And Rachel?
Good morning. Growing up where technology has been a part of my life, since I was very young, it's really fun to see a huge shift like this because everything's been incremental. So this is a really fun way to sort of see something big happen in my time. And since I'm in the classroom, I really think it's important to bring those tools and that, digital literacy to my students. So wherever that can play a part in aiding my journey and their journey, I think AI could be a really good supplemental facet.
Thank you so much, Rachel. And thanks to each of you for giving us a little bit of your background and sharing your excitement with us today. We're now going to turn the time over to really asking you some of the questions that we've prepared, as well as, if we have time for it today, we're going to actually invite all of our viewers today. If you have questions, feel free to drop them in the Q&A. And if we have time, we'll make sure to get to some of your questions. And I also have some prepared questions for each of our panelists. So I'm going to actually stop sharing my screen for a moment so we can jump into the questions. All right, so my first question actually starts with Scott. So Scott, we know the challenges of the new school year can be daunting, and often there's new curriculum, new lesson plans to write. And the question is, how can AI support lesson planning and even curriculum development, and even support SEL while in the process?
Sure, and there's many ways to do that and lots of different tools, but I'm going to share one in particular that may be new to some of you. So I'm going to share my screen here, and hopefully you are seeing, this is ChatGPT 4.0. So this is a free version of ChatGPT, and ChatGPT and other tools allow you to create your own what are called GPTs, which are kind of customized bots or customized searches. So if I go here on the left side, I say explore GPTs. There are a lot of ones that, when you create one, you can share it to the world if you want. By default, it's not. But this here, but here on the right side of the screen, it says create. So if I want to create my own, I can create my own. And here you can see you name it. You can give it a description. That's just for you. But the real action happens here where it says instructions. What do you want the GPT to do? What should it avoid doing? And another very powerful feature of this is you can upload files. So if you want to upload a SEL framework or UDL framework or content standards or rubrics or anything, that can also inform how that works. So what I did here for this webinar is instead of having you try to read it on that screen, here are the instructions that I did for this bot that supports SEL. You're an experienced teacher and lesson planner who designs lessons for 5th grade students, integrating academic content and social emotional learning. Of course, you would customize this for your situation. And it says your goal is not students to not only achieve academic success, but also develop critical SEL competencies. And then within the prompt, I go on to describe SEL. You might or might not have to do that. You can assume that it knows what it is, but I'd rather just put it out there. And then let's say that I have a certain lesson format I wanted to follow. I put that in there too, but again, you wouldn't have to do that. And then other things I want it to keep in mind that SEL is enhancing, not dominating the lessons and so on. So I think a point I want to make here too is, yeah, this is pretty long. Yours doesn't have to be this long, or it could be longer because the more you put into it, the more you'll get out of it. So I'm going to go back to that actual one. I'm going to go to my GPTs because I've done this already. I wasn't going to make it here. And this is called K-12 SEL Lesson Planner. So I'm going to, how do I get this out of the way? These things keep blocking my way here. So I'm going to go ahead and put a prompt for a lesson. And I have that here too. Create a 1-hour lesson for 5th grade students that address the following academic standards. So I went and pasted standards in there, one for English language arts, one for social studies. And I also mentioned, I said, emphasize collaboration, and the students have access to the Google Suite. So I'm going to go and copy that. That's going to be my prompt for this custom bot. And now I'm going to get a lesson that hopefully will integrate SEL within its, come on. If I blow on it, will it go faster? Why isn't it going? Here it comes. Understanding the 3 branches of government. That was one of the standards through informative writing. So it's creating a lesson, right? And then here's the SEL integration piece. And then you could say expand on, if it says discuss the importance of collaboration, you could say, please expand on that piece and keep on iterating. Of course, when you get these kind of lessons from ChatGPT, or any AI, you're going to want to read them carefully, make sure they fit, make sure they're correct, if there's supposed to be factual information in there. But it certainly would save you a lot of time and perhaps generate some ideas that you didn't come up with in the first place. But this way, the SEL is kind of woven in by default because of this customized bot. So hopefully that's one, a useful tip for you all that can kind of get you rolling. I'm going to stop sharing. That's the main thing I want to show. I don't want to take up too much time. I could go on, of course, but I want to make sure we have enough time for the rest of the panel.
Sure. I mean, I do have a follow-up question for you, Scott, which actually is related to that. I think that a lot of our participants are probably actually hungry for some of these free tools. So I'm curious if you could actually spend a couple more minutes sharing with us any other free resources out there to support this development.
Right. There are a lot of tools, and they're really kind of fall in 2 categories. Let me see if I can. So there are things like ChatGPT and Gemini and the ones they're text prompts, right? But also there are tools like School AI, Diffit, Magic School, and so on that are customized. These are kind of teacher-specific tools, and they're really wrappers with a W. They wrap around the models such as ChatGPT uses. But it's really just a shortcut. So if I go here, I'm in School AI, and I'm not advocating one over the other. But this one I have and I could go here to lesson plan.
Oh, and we can't see your screen right now. I'm sorry.
Oh, I stopped sharing.
That's okay.
Let me do that again.
No problem.
Sorry about that. Okay, we see the screen now. Okay. So this is School AI. I'll go to the front page again. School AI. You're seeing it, right? Or no?
Yes, yes,
Okay,
thank
good.
you.
And then in School AI, I'm going to go to tools, and there's a whole bunch of tools here. So these things that these kind of custom teacher tools can provide, you can do in ChatGPT and Gemini and Copilot and those kinds of things through text prompts. And my opinion is I prefer to do it that way because I can really customize it a lot more. But especially if you're just getting started with this, these tools are great because they're very easy. So I'll go to lesson plan again, since that's what we're talking about here. And I can, say 5th grade, and I can, whatever, branches of government. And then I can add more details. I can add standards. It's going to let me navigate to the different standards. I can, again, upload documents if I have a rubric or, the UDL framework, whatever it is. And then it's going to, I'll click generate, although I didn't put much in there. And then it's gonna, generate a lesson plan. So, this doesn't, well, let me go back and see additional details. I could say integrate the SEL framework, the Castle wheel, those kinds of things. I don't know if that would work in this case. I haven't tried that, but typically you have more control with things like ChatGPT, but there's the convenience and a lot of the features that these have. Also with School AI and a few others, you have these, they call it spaces. And what that is you create a custom bot for your students, and then you send them the web address, and then they're kind of interacting with their own little personal bot. Now, there are perhaps legal ethical issues about students using AI, which I won't get into now, but these tools do provide some ways to have students interact with AI in this kind of what's the word I'm looking for? A walled garden kind of a thing where they can't, get out and do negative things.
Okay, thank you so much, Scott, for just
You're
giving us a
welcome.
little bit more sample. And just to let all of our participants know that we will send out links with AI educational tools and resources as a list for you after the webinar. So know that we will be sharing these resources with you as well. All right, thank you so much, Scott. We appreciate your time. Next, I'm going to jump to you, Rachel. So Rachel, as you are in the classroom, are there some AI tools you have used that have helped you manage the teacher workload so that you can focus more on building student relationships?
Yeah, all the general ones that people tend to use, ChatGPT, Gemini. One that's been particularly helpful to me going into this year has been Magic School. That one has some pretty good understandings of the complexities of the lesson. When you want to focus on, the student's engagement rather than just, imparting the information. Yeah, that's been primarily the one that's been helpful to me. And an odd one you might not expect, Prezi. It's a presentation software, and it really does nail generating off of the simplest prompt. I've fiddled with it a bunch, and it really nails that expansion without the necessity for intense prompt engineering, which could be problematic because a student could very easily put in something that does not require much work and get out an amazing product. But on the back end, it is really helpful to me.
Okay, thank you. And I'm wondering, as a follow-up, I think one of the questions a lot of teachers are having is the question of how do we navigate students using the AI within our classroom. I'm wondering if you could speak specific to your experience with that.
So the school that I work at is a very small school. So we have the privilege of being able to sort of connect with every single student in your class, in your social group, to be able to sort of gauge where they are in their in their digital literacy. But one of the main ways that I've found makes AI a partner to them rather than some sort of tool, sort of in a personification of ways, which, creates sort of a social contract with it, is as a middle step for feedback. between the student and the teacher. So a lot of my students struggle with anxiety around receiving feedback because they could see it as a personal critique or as a sign of failure. So something that this last year they found really helpful was going into ChatGPT, Gemini, whatever, and saying, does this text paragraph, does this project address all of the points in this prompt? And then it can simply tell them whether or not they've met all of the metrics or not, so they know what they need to go in and fix. So it's giving them the assessment without generating the content for them. And I found that that is a huge stress reliever for them.
Thank you for sharing that. I really appreciate those very tangible and real world examples of what it's looking like in the classroom.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you. Brian, I'm going to jump over to you. And this also continues to build upon some of the things that I just asked Rachel to speak about. So while this all sounds great, we've also heard about AI taking over every aspect of our lives. So I'm curious if you could speak to in what ways can human-centered AI enhance the student learning experience while also preserving the vital human connection in education?
Excellent question. There's lots to unpack there. So first of all, if you're out there and you're feeling some anxiety or possibly overwhelmed about what's going on with AI, that's good. You're paying attention. There's a lot happening. It's very human. That is a reasonable response to an incredibly unprecedented rapid speed of change. That being said, we've seen technological changes before, and we found ways to partner with that technology to be more productive, to empower ourselves and our learners. And so the trick, it seems to me, is to look for ways to find the technologies that augment what we do without automating what we do. So there's still going to be a human being at the beginning of any process. Here's the prompt, here's what I want from this technology, and a human being at the other end saying, all right, I'm going to evaluate what you've given me before it kind of goes out. And even more than that is there's a human being accountable for whatever that technology use is. So one of the ways that we educators can have a better seat at the table is to continue to invest our time in enhancing our digital literacy so that when we receive these tools from our institutions or when we see them from vendors, we can articulate and advocate for our learner well-being, and that these tools don't become a way to harness us and our learners for data, but they become ways to empower us to do what we're doing better and faster, to free up our instructors from tasks that they might consider drudgery, so that once again, they can focus on the human connections that are important and motivating and valuable to our learners.
Thank you, Brian. So jumping over to you, Mark, as we have talked about, we know that AI tools are coming fast and furious. So in your opinion, how can educators best prepare students to navigate the evolving landscape of AI in education, but also ensure that they're still developing those strong interpersonal skills necessary to thrive within the world, which is becoming more increasingly technology-driven?
Again, great question. You know, we've touched on it several times here. It is not taking the human out of the loop here. It's really about augmentation. I like to think about things about scalability, and AI has actually been with us for a very long time. You know, we use maps, we take things for granted. Some of us use Grammarly and don't give it a second thought. And these are new tools that are available to us that can help us be more effective, scale up. So, you know, one quick pitch is a lot of these are freemium or things that you can try. Just go and play with them. Don't be afraid. Enjoy, kind of enjoy learning about these new tools. But some of the things they can do is they can help with personalized learning. So if you're at a small school, you have a good interaction with your students, but if you have larger classes, some of these tools can help you scale, but still provide that personal interaction. You know, the tools can help identify, learning challenges in individual students. You can ask the AI to evaluate their feedback and just kind of helps you be personal to the student, but in a larger sort of way. Training. You know, emotional intelligence is a really key area, and a lot of us are just learning how to effectively teach that. And AI can be your partner in that, giving you ideas and those sorts of things. Tutoring, individualized tutoring, that's probably one of the biggest areas. Some of you probably have experience with the Khan Academy and what they're doing. Every student will have their personal tutor, and that is something you can interact with. They're getting individualized tutoring, but you're also getting feedback on how that's working. And then, of course, analytics. I'm a big analytics nerd, so it's going to provide a lot of data, and the AI can help you sort through that and how to be more effective.
Okay, thank you so much for sharing that, Mark. And I think, Brian, actually, do you want to add to that?
Yeah, I want to add to almost what everyone else is saying is, you know, we've talked about the serious application of all this stuff, but part of it, like Mark said, is just sit in front of it and play with it, you know, have some fun, see what it does and what it doesn't do so you can understand how it processes information. I didn't say think because I didn't want to anthropomorphize, but kind of figuring out its logic. But also, I mean, there's so many fun, weird things going on with this technology. To Scott's point about training it with the prompt, there have been several media articles that say if you sort of make the AI worried about you, it will give you better responses. So I need to know this information or I might lose my job or my next grant is depending on it, that you actually get different results. And I'm throwing that out there, not to be mean to computers, but just to sort of get in there and play with it, understand its logic and find a way that you use it that works for you and your learners. If you imagine the ways, sorry, I'll make this brief, that you and your friends all use the internet, we all use that same tool, but we probably use it very differently. And the same is going to be true with these AI tools. You're going to find the groove, the level, the interface that works for you, and then it suddenly becomes an empowering experience.
Thank you so much for adding on to that. So one of the challenges I think that a lot of educators face is that we've all heard about the potential stress or challenges of AI being in the hands of students. And Scott, curious if you could talk a little bit about the AI tools that may potentially lead to cheating. How concerned should we as educators be? And I'm curious if you could also share your thoughts on how we might combat that.
Okay. Yeah, happy to do that. It is a concern, and I think that I think what has happened, especially when we first started talking about all this, is people kind of, it's like, are you in this camp or that camp? Are you excited about AI or are you scared of it? And I think it's possible to be concerned and excited at the same time. Yes, we should explore these new tools and see what they can do, but also I don't want the AI to circumvent my students' learning. So the most common example, of course, is the essay. Go home and write a summary of chapter 2. Well, and then, so almost any AI tool can do that, especially if it's a well-known book, or you could, so yes. So I think one of the things to think about here, and I know at the beginning of the webinar, you said that this webinar will lower people's anxiety. This little bit may raise a little bit, because there is no easy answer to your question. It's not like, oh, Scott's going to give us the name of the one tool that I can run my students' work through, and it's going to tell me. Those AI plagiarism checkers are not 100% accurate. Statistics vary about how accurate they are. But if I think it's ChatGPT or Turnitin claims 4% inaccuracies. Other people say it's higher. But when we think about relationships with students, well, imagine how the relationship is going to be affected if you falsely accuse a student of plagiarizing when they didn't. Okay, that's kind of a permanent damage thing. And then from there on out, the students can be very wary of anything. A while ago, I was in this discussion about how they are inaccurate at a training, and I put some pre-ChatGPT writing of mine in one of these checkers, and it said it was AI. And I just write like an AI, I guess, but they are not completely accurate. So what can you do? And I'm going to share my screen again because I knew this question was coming. So first thing, as a teacher, you want to put it out there, because especially, I work in higher ed. it's kind of everyone's dirty little secret. It's like, I wonder if I cheat, I wonder if the teacher will know, or if they can figure it out. This is a tip that popped into my head that I heard, is that if you're talking about writing, that students are much less likely to cheat if you have a step where they read their work to each other, to their classmates, as opposed to just sending it right to the teacher, because they don't, because their classmates don't know that I was cheating. But anyway, so it's kind of a dichotomy here, or a challenge. Dichotomy is not the right word, but we don't want them to use AI to circumvent their learning, but we want to prepare them for a world where they're probably going to use generative AI in their jobs, right? So we have to kind of think carefully about how we want them to use it and how we don't want them to use it. And I like this. This is Leon Furzy out of Australia. He came up with this AI assessment scale that specifies, so for any particular assignment or portion of an assignment, you can say, okay, for this, I don't want you to use any AI. For this part, you can have it generate ideas, but then after that, it's you, or vice versa. It's like you generate ideas and then it helps you edit, so on and so forth. And, you would adapt that. And speaking of it, adapting, this is the, I think the North Carolina Department of Ed adapted it for younger kids, but you could adapt it any way you want. But just kind of putting it out there as far as how can you use it while, I teach higher ed, so there's no legal issues there, but while encouraging their use. And here's an example from a college class. And in this assignment, students create a website where they teach something, like a learning, instructional website. So I just kind of laid out for each part of the assignment how they can or cannot use AI. And one of the things I want to point out here is that for this first one, it says, yeah, you may use generative AI to craft your, they had to create a learning project. But if you're going to do this, you want to make sure you have your objectives, rubric criteria, and so on. So while you're having them use it ethically or encouraging ethical use, you're also kind of helping them, you're going to have to put some work into it, because earlier I showed a longer prompt. I think a lot of us we're focused on kind of that Google mindset, put in a phrase and then we get our answers. Those longer prompts really generate better results. So anyway, so if you can see that in some cases you can use generative AI for this, you can't use it for that, and then it's out there. And then I'm gonna stop sharing here. The last thing I want to say about this is, what's going to have to happen with this is that we're going to have to rethink some of our assignments. And if you have been doing read chapter 2 and write me a summary, ask yourself, okay, I need to rethink that assessment because kids can cheat. Ask yourself, why am I having them do that? Oh, it's because I want them to prove that they read it. So is there another way for me to get to that? And you might even ask why again. Why do I want them to prove to me that they read it? But if you keep asking why, and then you kind of get to the heart of the purpose of the assignment, I think that's a very useful thing to do. Especially, some teachers, old folks like me, we kind of get married to activities. We love activities. We do them year after year, and sometimes we love them so much we forget why am I having my students do this? And you got to kind of get back to the purpose of it. And I think having to rethink these activities and assessments is going to be useful in the long run. So I'm sorry that was not an easy answer. Just use this tool to answer all your problems, but it's going to be an ongoing challenge for sure.
Well, I think that you certainly eased some of my anxiety I have about that. And you really showed that it's not about trying to combat any of this, but it's actually about taking IA, leveraging it so that it's actually a tool and a resource that we're using to continue to enhance education. So thank you for helping me understand that better. We have just another minute or two left for our questions. And so I'm curious, I'm going to ask Brian and Rachel each to share a little bit before we move on. So Brian, I was curious if you could kind of synthesize all of this and help us bring it all together. And then Rachel, I'm wondering if you could provide us with any advice as we're starting up the school year for teachers as they're starting the new school year. So Brian, I'll turn the time over to you and we'll finish with Rachel's advice.
So first of all, loved everything that's been presented so far. So get in there, get your hands dirty, get your fingers on the keyboard, play with the tools, see what works, see what doesn't. Try to put the lenses on that we're not at war with our students. They're not a cycle of detection and avoidance, will not end well, but that we're there to partner with them, to learn alongside them, and to help them ensure that they are productive members of society and competitive in a world where these sort of tools exist. So keep playing, and that's my really quick blurb.
Thank you so much, Brian. And Rachel, I'll turn it over to you.
Yeah, just a quick framework that might be helpful if you're trying to figure out how to structure the introduction of the digital literacy and digital citizenship to your students. ISTE has a structure. It's called Digital Citizenship in Education. I can send the link as well if it's necessary. And it sort of sets out the competencies that should be expected and provided as structure for students. I think it balanced, informed, inclusive, engaged, and alert. So just sort of those are good tenets to frame introduction to AI in an education space with your students. It's a useful structure.
Well, thank you so much. This is fascinating, and our time has flown by today. I wish we could spend more time with you. I'm going to continue to move along, but we just want to, again, say thank you for those thoughtful responses to the questions by our panelists today. So again, we would wish we could sit and talk to you all day because this is very fascinating. For those of you that may or may not know that are joining us today, Harmony is a great resource for supporting the important work of keeping our human connection strong, even as AI is transforming the work that we're doing within schools. So Harmony Academy can help you develop relationships both inside and outside of the classroom. You can access the Harmony curriculum, both pre-K through 6th grade, out of school time, as well as our new resource, Harmony at Home. And as an educator, you can professionally grow through our Harmony pre-K through 12th on-demand educator modules. Additionally, you can now level up the Harmony Academy with our new Harmony kits. So as you can see, we have so many great resources for you. These kits bring the importance of accessing printed resources like our quick connection cards and our storybooks, which we all know that our younger learners benefit from and their interactions. You can also take advantage of a 20% off discount when you access our website shared from the QR code on the screen. And then finally, just as a way of wrap up, we have a few minutes left. I am curious if each of our participants, if we could go around, we would love to hear from each of you. Your final thoughts to this question. What are you most excited about? And how can we continue to support the human connection in AI as it continues to evolve the way we work in our schools, universities, and truly across all aspects of our lives? So I'll turn the time back over to you.
I'll jump in here.
Thanks, Scott.
One thing I'm excited about is the potential for AI to empower us to do things that were too time consuming or difficult before. So for example, if you were to say something like, our lessons should include media literacy and financial literacy and SEL and UDL and should be interdisciplinary and hands-on and collaborative, all those things, people would agree and say, yeah, that's a good idea, but who's got the time to plan that? Now with AI, you could put a lot of those things in a prompt and get started on those kinds of things, and it would save you a whole lot of time. So that might open up the door for more relevant and impactful lessons.
Indeed, that sounds very exciting. Thank you for sharing, Scott.
Sure.
I'll jump in. This image that we're looking at right now, created with an application called ideogram.ai. What I'm looking forward to is being empowered to be creative. I know there's some concern about AI robbing us of our creativity, but there are spaces. I've been in media arts, and if you put a pencil in my hand, you may as well have just thrown away the pencil. I don't have that graphic design ability, but I created that image in a couple seconds being empowered by these tools. So as a way to be creative, as a way to communicate, I think that these tools are very empowering and will be even more so in the future for people who want to be artistically creative, but even medically for people who've lost their voice. There's just a lot of applications where I keep using the word, but I'm going to do it again. It's empowering for communication.
Thank you, Brian. And I really appreciate, like I said, I'm one of the people that personally has been more on the apprehensive side. And just hearing from all of you today has certainly helped me to see this as a tool for creativity and for connection rather than something to be concerned about. So thank you for sharing that.
I'll just jump in and we
Go ahead,
can
Mark.
finish
Yeah.
out with Rachel. Yeah, I'm excited. I said I'm fully on board with the new technology because of pretty much scalability. We can only have so many one-to-one interactions, and this really allows you to scale and get your ideas out there and touch more people. One of the things I'll just tell you really quickly is there's technology now where you can actually clone yourself, and that sounds scary. But if you've ever done a lot of presentations where you have to go back and edit out all the ums and the ahs and the, what was I going to say? You can actually create a version of yourself and really quickly produce material to get your message out there. Not saying it's appropriate in all spaces, but sometimes it can be really effective. Now, the last thing I wanted to say on this was be curious. Get out there, have discussions with your colleagues, get your administration involved, let them, know about, the scalability of this, and it can be much more effective. And that's, we've seen that through data. It's shown that, you can start to do better data-driven decision-making, partnerships, and those sorts of things. And it's really, again, we're at the forefront of a really new and exciting time, and it's going to benefit everyone. But be curious, don't be afraid.
Thank you so much, Mark. And Rachel, we have time for your final thoughts.
I suppose my parting sentiment is that because technology is so ubiquitous it was in my childhood, and it 100% is in the students that are currently in the classroom, it becomes boring, it becomes commonplace. So making a big deal about it in a fun way, I think really will make the difference coming into it. Because, if we just let it be, nothing exciting there. It might as well, be a pencil, like we said before. You might as well throw it away, and it's just a tool. There's nothing unique or new about it, and you don't think about it. If you approach it with, discipline, then it becomes taboo. But if you approach it with the same, novel wonder that you approach anything that you're teaching the students about, then it becomes part of the culture. It becomes part of the interest. And so there's just a more critical, a more active mindset being applied to those interactions. And I think that'll really be helpful in the coming years.
And thank you, Rachel. What an excellent way to close that out. And I appreciate the way in which you just really encourage us to continue to be open-minded and curious and to have the right mindset when it comes to this. So we are just about time, and I want to thank each of our panelists for being with us today. Thank you, Rachel, Brian, Mark, and Scott, for sharing your expertise with us. Thank you, all of our participants too, whether you're an educator, a school leader, a parent, or wherever you may be coming from. Thank you for joining us today. We know that this is a busy time of the school year, and we appreciate you making time to be here to learn with us. I do want to remind you, you won't want to miss our next webinar. It'll take place on September 18th, and it will be with Dr. Terrell Strayhorn and a panel of inspirational educators who will share how the power of belonging strengthens at the start of the school year. And registration will open soon on our website. And again, we thank you for being with us and attending our webinar today. Be on the lookout for a short survey that will pop up on your screen. And we appreciate if you'd share your feedback on our survey so that we can continue to improve our webinars going forward. And we hope that you all have a great day and a joyous start to your school year. Thank you very much.